Hey, it's Jackson, and I'm going to walk you through exactly how to take your measurements at home. So this is a very cheap, inexpensive way of taking your measurements and finding out exactly where you currently are. So as we want to transform into this superhero version of ourselves, we're going to go on this journey. We want to find out first where we're starting at. That way we can measure our progress along the way and see if we actually make it to our final end destination, our end goal of being a superhero. So there's going to be two ways of doing this. You can do this with a very cheap measuring tool just like this, and the other way is a little fancier tool, which is like another measuring tape, but it has this little notch in it where you can put the tool in and press a button and it kind of zooms in and pulls it in. So it's a little bit fancier, it's a little bit easier to do it on your own with this, but I'm going to do it the more difficult way with the cheaper measuring tool just to show you that it is possible to do it on your own. Now, of course, it's helpful if you have a spouse, a loved one, a friend, family member who can do this for you, which can lead to some fun after endings, but you can also do it on your own if you want as well. So we'll walk you through exactly how to do that. So we're going to start with the neck measurement, and let's get going. So neck measurement, it helps to do this in the mirror also, so then you can just look in the mirror and see exactly where the measurement is. You want to go chin down on the neck measurement so you don't stick your Adam's apple out. So chin down, we're going to measure across, and then you're going to just use your thumb and your forefinger to find the exact spot that you're measuring. So here for me, and since I've done this before, I know that's about 16.25, maybe 16, and if I pull my finger away, I can look and see exactly where it's at, and it's right on the 16. So 16 for me on the neck. Next, we're going to move to the shoulders, and of course you want to be writing these measurements down, either tracking them in Excel or at another spreadsheet. You could be writing them down in your in a notebook. You can also be tracking them in your phone, in any type of app, or in the Notes app as well. So next, let's do shoulders. So shoulders is going to be the largest circumference around the upper part of our chest, back, and shoulders. So it incorporates chest, back, shoulders, obviously. We don't want to measure so far up here at the very top of our shoulders that it's kind of an awkward and weird measurement. And we don't want to measure all the way down here towards the bottom end of our chest either. We want to measure right around that largest circumference, the meaty part of our shoulders and the upper part of our chest. So somewhere right around in here. So again, I'm going to pull this tight, and I'm going to put the measurement tool between my thumb and my forefinger, and I pull this nice and tight, and that's about 49.75, maybe 50. So right in that sort of range right in there. And again, I'll pull this a little bit tighter, relax. And as far as your breath, you don't want to inhale too much. You don't want to exhale too much either. You want to kind of be in between. So take a breath in, exhale a little bit, and that's going to give you a consistent measurement across the board all the time. Because if you inhale too much, your measurements are going to be inflated, of course. So 50 on my shoulder measurement, and of course you're going to record that. Next, we'll move right into the chest measurement because that's going to be nice and easy to transition to. So pull this all the way up underneath those armpits. Of course, you can see it goes right across my back. So pull that all the way up underneath the armpits, right over the upper part of the chest. So for me, that's going to be about 42.5. So 42.5 on the chest measurement. Now we're going to work our way over to the arms. So we're going to measure the arms next, biceps. Of course, with the arms, you're going to measure both your right and your left side. And don't be alarmed if your measurements are a little bit different from one arm to the next. That's very normal and natural. It happens. For example, me, this arm is going to be a little bit smaller than my other arm because I had an injury in the side. Whenever I'm doing client measurements and I noticed one side smaller than the other, it's often because of a compensation pattern or an injury, so don't freak out about that. It's normal and natural. Okay. So biceps, you're going to measure flexed. It's the only muscle we're going to actually measure flexed, and that's because Arnold Schwarzenegger, who set the standard for big arms, had 20-inch arms, and then everyone wanted to have 20-inch arms or close to 20-inch arms, so everyone started flexing their biceps when they started measuring them. So that's the only muscle we're going to actually measure flexed. So you're going to drape this around your bicep. You want to measure at the peak circumference of your bicep. So we're going to flex here. We're going to pull this measurement tool around, and then we're going to see about 16 on the biceps. You can see that. Now I know this one's smaller than this one. I don't want to bore you with the details and show you, but this one's about 16.5. So now we're going to measure our forearm. To measure your forearm, because it's long and it gets larger as we get closer to the elbow, we have to measure at the exact same spot every single time. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to measure from our wrist and we're going to measure up. So we're going to start this at the sort of bottom of your wrist, and we're going to measure 8 inches up. Let me get this line. So we're going to measure 8 inches up, as you can see. I'm going to visually mark that spot, boom, there. And now I'm going to drape this around at that point. And now I'm going to take my forearm measurement. And again, not flexed. We're going to measure this in an unflexed state. So let me get that set again. So as you can see, a little awkward to do it yourself, but it is possible. So about 12.5 on my forearm measurement. So again, non-flexed, arm out, 8 inches up from the wrist, and that way you always get a consistent measurement. Always measure 8 inches up from the wrist on the forearm. That's the forearm measurement. And again, do both the right and the left. I'm not going to show you both. I'm just going to do one. All right, next we're going to measure our waist. Waist is going to be the smallest circumference of your waist. So that's going to be usually a little bit higher than the belly button. It's not where you're typically going to wear your pants or your shorts. If you measure where you wear your pants or shorts, that would be down and include your hips, which we don't want to do. We want to measure up higher than that. Smallest circumference of our waist, that's going to be a little bit higher than the belly button. For me, and this is where your breath is really going to be important. You don't want to breathe in and inhale too much or exhale too much, because that will drastically affect the measurement. So just nice and natural and normal, and then pull it tight. And for me, that's going to be 32. So 32 on the waist for me. Next is going to be hips as we work our way down. Hips is going to be the largest circumference, including not only our hips, but also our glutes, aka our butt. So we're going to measure right around the butt, and we're going to measure right across the front of our body. So boom, boom, boom. I'm going to move to the side so you can see what the side view looks like. It's a little bit easier to see from the side. I don't have a huge butt, so I'm sorry, it might not be as visually appealing as it could be. So right across the front, including the largest circumference of our glutes. And then I'm going to pull this tight, and that's going to be 38.5 for me. So 38.5, that's nice and tight. That's about where it should be. All right. So 38.5 on the hips. And again, record that, and then work our way down. I'm going to only show you one side, but you want to measure both legs, of course, the right and the left. I'm only going to do one side. So with our thigh measurement, we want to do the same thing with the forearms. We are going to have to measure our way up the leg and then take the measurement, because otherwise, if sometimes we measure here and other times we measure up here, and then next time we measure here, they're always going to be slightly different measurements. So we want to get a consistent reading. Reliability is more important than accuracy when it comes to measurements, so we can measure progress consistently. So I'm going to lift up my short a little bit. I want to stand with my feet underneath my hips. So pull up my short. I'm going to keep my legs nice and straight, and I'm going to measure 8 inches up. So just to keep it consistent, 8 inches up from my top of my kneecap up my thigh. I'm going to visually and use my finger to mark that spot. And do not flex your thigh when you're doing this. You want to be nice and unflexed. 23.5 on the thigh. So now I'm going to work my way down the leg and do the calf. Again, you want to measure both your right and your left thigh, record those numbers, and then continue. All right, calf measurement. We're going to measure the largest circumference of our calf. So you want to find that spot that's the largest circumference. So start a little bit lower than you think, and then work your way up, and then just try to find that largest spot. And for me, I already know what the number is going to be. It's 16. That's 16. If you see, if I go a little higher, that's 15.5. So 16 for me is the largest circumference of my calf, and that is the spot. So again, measure both right and left, record those numbers, and that is exactly how you're going to measure your body measurements using an at-home tool, measuring tool. And again, you can use this one. This will be in the resources below. So if you don't have one, you can buy one. It's only $4 on Amazon. It's very cheap. Or you can use the fancier version where it has the clip on, and you can much more easily do the measurements on yourself. But of course, it is very helpful to have somebody else do it for you. Very cheap and easy way to do this at home. I'm Jackson. Thanks for watching.